100.9 FM, WTUG HD2 Northport, and W265CG Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and our running back coach didn't take it. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good. So I think 3 points of emphasis that we've really tried to make after the scrimmage is, really getting the guys to sustain, to finish, better effort to finish plays, better effort to maintain your intensity, whether it's during the play, the next play, or the 50th play, to be able to sustain and have the mental toughness to be able to maintain and sustain your intensity so you can finish plays. That also leads into mental errors. We got to eliminate mental errors. Too many times guys aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and it leads to negative plays. So we're constantly trying to teach guys cause and effect. When you do this and you don't do it right, this is what happens. If you do it right, this is what happens. So, and we have to get more consistency in performance, and I think it goes back to sustaining and maintaining intensity the same way you have to finish a play so that we eliminate mental errors. Everybody can do their job, and we can play better as a team. And that bleeds right into the other point of emphasis, which is penalties. It's been a big emphasis for us this spring to eliminate penalties. And I think goes back to the same thing. If I can maintain and sustain my intensity and focus on whether it's jumping off sides, whether it's illegal motion, whether it's wrong formation, and half of our penalties have been pre or post snap. In other words, they don't happen during the play. So, and those things can all be eliminated if we just have a little better discipline, a little better focus, and maintaining intensity. So, those are the things that we really want to emphasize. The last 2 days in practice, I thought the intensity has been good. I think the spirit's been good. I like the spirit of the team. I said that after the scrimmage. There's just a lot of things. We got a lot of young guys. We got a lot of things to work on to try to get a little better consistency in performance. So that's our focus this week. That'll be our focus for the scrimmage, so that we get a little better execution on a little more consistent basis. Obviously, we got the high school coaches clinic coming up this week. This is one thing that we always look forward to. Coaches do a lot for us. They don't.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. You can join us there. Glad to have you with us this morning. That was Coach Nick Saban, and we'll be breaking down his audio in just a moment. But before we get into that, we also can talk a little bit about basketball, finish the conversation from yesterday, if you like, in terms of to return or not return. We were having some of that conversation on guys who we think may return as well. And so let's get in on that in just a moment. Also, recruiting with Hank South, 247 Sports, will come up in the third quarter. So it's going to be a very interesting show, but hey, we can't do it without you. So once again, Alabama One hotline open for business, 205-342-9904. Also, you can join us on chat with on our online side of things. You can like, follow, and share, and support the live stream, support what we do here. I appreciate you guys listening, and I appreciate your support of the program. So you can do that once again at Martin Houston 35 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And all you have to do is click on the QR code, and it'll take you to an opportunity for you to donate. But continue to like, follow, and share as well. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. And as I said, we just had an opportunity to listen to Coach Nick Saban in that intro from his presser yesterday. He's talking about pre-snap penalties, consistency in performance. I think it's more than coach speaks this time, as the University of Alabama was the third highest ranked team, tied for third with two other schools. I think it was Eastern Michigan and Houston for the most penalties by a football program in the D1 level. There was two teams tied at one. Tennessee, ironically, was number two, and then Alabama sitting in that third spot, tied for number three, with 103 penalties over last season. And several games you can go back and look where it was a close game. Had we not had those penalties, maybe it'd been different. But I think the most disheartening part of that, and Nick Saban spoke about it, was half of the penalties that we got last year were pre-snap or post-snap, meaning that half of the time it was things that we could have done most of the time. 99.99% of the time, a pre-snap or post-snap penalty is all about mental focus and your commitment to doing your job correct. And that's a lot, X. And did that speak to players' commitment or coaches' commitment or coaches' ability?
Um, probably a combination of the both. The coaches have to make sure that the guys are prepared, and if they've done their job, the players then have to go execute. You can't let the noise, the crowd, pressure get to you in those situations. Especially if most of them are before the play. You have to be offensively, you have to be focused on the ball. Defensively, you have to be focused on the ball as well. And then post snap, post play penalties is just a maturity level thing, in my opinion. Don't let your emotions get the best of you in those situations. And plays over, play in between the snap. That's the end of it.
Yeah, and I will say it's always part of it is always the players, right? Because technically a coach can't, get out there and move. Once the play's called, it's on the players to execute. But a lot of those were like illegal procedure penalties or misalignment and things like that. But why would one team all of a sudden have it more than another team? You have to ask yourself that question. And I think some of it can be the way you call plays, the way you set things up, the way you organize, and what you call out. There's an old saying in the business world, don't expect what you don't inspect. And so if players are jumping off sides a little bit, in practice, and you don't really go in on them, then that can lead to in-game penalties. They say practice makes perfect. No, perfect practice makes perfect. You practice. I mean, you play exactly the way you practice. If you're loose in practice or careless in practice and things like that, you have the same effect. Now, a lot of our listeners may not know and understand that some of our listeners, I'm sure many of them do. There's a lot of coaches, a lot of officials out at Alabama's practices. They are there to call scrimmages, call penalties and all of that. And I've heard that last year, man, it was a lot of penalties called. uh, but it didn't change throughout the course of the year. So now you have to ask yourself this question, X. Is it possible that last year, remember how the change happened with Coach Saban and, everybody went to the smaller defensive lineman and went to hurry up, and he was a year or so slow in making the change, right?
Yeah.
When you look at this, did Nick Saban and his coaching staff potentially last year change how they coached the players because they were concerned about the portal? Were they soft on the players last year in terms of getting in their stuff? You know what I mean? Like some people you can't get onto because they'll cry like a baby. Well, but they used to not be able to leave, so you could really go in on them because what were they going to do? Get mad, pout a little bit, and then they'd be back at practice. Well, now they can just go get in the portal and be gone. Is that possibly why this team mentally struggled last year? That Alabama was soft on them.
You can definitely look into that and potentially see that as an issue. Yeah, we talk about some guys that you've seen in the past that say, "Hey, the reason I stayed was because there wasn't an option. I didn't to just freely leave." And now that's a thing that can happen at any point. I mean, throughout the season, throughout the any point of the year, guys can say, "All right, I'm done with this" or whatever. So coaches, I think, are changing their approaches to things. But honestly, in my opinion, you want to keep every guy. But if there's a guy you can't, get in their stuff and correct, that's probably not a guy that you want on the team. So it can be a catch-22 situation.
Yeah, and it can, and I get you do have to coach guys differently. I don't think one size fits all in coaching or in any leadership model. You need to know your players because some guys you have to learn. And Saban talked about high school coaches coming in. X. I think that part of your goal in meeting with these coaches is kind of understand their philosophy because you may have a superstar player who's never been corrected and he doesn't know how to respond to hard coaching. Don't mean you don't coach him hard, but you need to understand up front um, that okay, this guy is different because not all guys who respond poorly to hard coaching are necessarily weak guys. But they need to understand in this new world, that's going to be the style of coaching you use. And the reason I bring that up is I've heard this is what I heard about Saban, okay, this year and the coaching staff. He's back. He's back. He's back. We're going to go to break. I want you to think about what does he's back potentially mean in terms of Coach Nick Saban? Based on the conversation we were just having, based on the conversation that Nick Saban said in regards to the audio, if you missed it, he talked about pre-snap penalties and them keeping intensity and the fact that they talked about 50% of them was pre and post snap, and only half or a little over half were that way, and the other ones were, like a holding and different things like that. What does he's back mean, and what does that mean for the University of Alabama? What could that translate into if you're an Alabama fan? We'll talk about it right here on the Martin Houston Show. You're in with Martin and Xavier. The Alabama One hotline is open for business, 205-342-9904. You can get in on the conversation once again on the Alabama One hotline, or if you tune in on the online stream, the live stream, let's get your thoughts, comments, and chat as well. Thank you for being a part of the show. We'll be back in just a moment.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan, traffic center, no active wrecks, but the roadways are wet from all this overnight rain, so just slow down. Be careful, especially out on the Mercedes International Speedway. Now, if you see conditions, give me a call. Townsend Nissan is paying top dollar for your current car, truck, or SUV because values are at an all-time high. The Save-a-thon is underway, and BJ's making deals. Go see him. I'm Captain Ray.
The Tuscaloosa Mayor's Cup 5K for pre-K will be April 29th at 8 a.m. in downtown Tuscaloosa. For more information or to register, go to TuscaloosaMayorsCup.com. That's www.TuscaloosaMayorsCup.com.
Tide Power Pods have 85% more Tide.
Who needs that much more Tide?
Well, when giving your muddy dog a bath turns into you getting a mud shower, yikes, you're gonna need more Tide. When your wine tasting becomes a wine spilling, yeah, you're gonna need more Tide. Or if your favorite shirt is your kid's favorite napkin, great, I'm gonna need more Tide. My mom gave me that shirt.
It's a mess out there. Tide Power Pods have 85% more Tide versus Tide Pods.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Tuscaloosa Locksmith sells key remotes, remote fobs, smart keys, car remotes, and Black Rifle coffee. They also do laser engraving. Tuscaloosa Locksmith, just off 15th Street behind the fire station.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy today, the chance of showers, maybe a few strong thunderstorms this afternoon or this evening. The high today 69, the low tonight 58. Tomorrow mostly cloudy with a chance of scattered showers. The high tomorrow at 72. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 56 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You know what happens in a plasma chamber?
Big stuff. Science stuff.
Diamonds. I'm Tom Osmond. Fincher & Osmond Jewelers carries artisan-created diamonds.
Earth and human safe.
And bigger. Lots bigger.
Fincher & Osmond diamonds from the mines or artisan-created diamonds.
They're all diamonds.
If you want to give her the big stuff, you've got to see these diamonds.
FincherandOsmond.com. A little tricky to find on McFarland Boulevard between Edgar's and Local Roots.
Scott Smith and Softmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at softmarkdesign.com.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
He's back. Referring to Saban, what does that mean for Bama football? Let me hear your thoughts. Once again, the statement, he's back, referring to Coach Nick Saban. What does that mean for the University of Alabama football. Let me hear your thoughts. You can call us at 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline, or you can post your comments on the live stream from the various chat outlets that you are tuned in on. Before we get back in that conversation, remember Taco Casa, quality, taste, value under the biggest cactus in town. Try them out for lunch and or dinner. They are there to serve you great quality, taste, and value. That's Taco Casa, tacocasa.com. All right. X, he's back. What does that mean to you? What does that mean for Alabama football, I should say, in your opinion?
Nick Saban being back to me means getting back to the basics, getting back to what had us in 3 national championships in 4 years and the run that we were on. You know, taking care of business, you know, pushing the envelope forward as far as player development, but as well as getting the coaching done on the field. Because the talent as far as recruiting classes has not changed, but it's the on the field development. And I think getting back to the basics is what's going to help Bama win again.
Aiden, you have any thoughts on what he's back means for Alabama football?
Yeah, I think we're gonna see that intensity that we felt like was lacking kind of on the field. Like, were guys out there executing plays, Martin, last year? Like, yeah, of course they were the last 2 years. It just kind of felt oftentimes like you were watching them go through the motions and get a job done rather than playing with that fire and that passion we're used to seeing. I think we're gonna see that again now.
Yeah, and like I said, that's not me just throwing it out there. That's one of the phrases I've heard describing this scrimmage. I mean, this spring is he's back. So let's take a little look, let you guys kind of talk, and if you want to comment or get in on the conversation via phones, 205-342-9904, the Alabama One hotline, or if you want to add your comments, Curtis Lewis, and hopefully it means Grandpapa is gone and Coach Saban from the early years has returned. You can look at a couple different ways. One is we briefly talked about was there a kinder, gentler Saban that's walked the sidelines the last year and a half to 2 years because of the transfer portal? X has Saban allowed things to happen or for things to persist throughout the season that he would not have let happen before? And is that why we've seen so many kids transfer at the end?
Probably. Excuse me. I excuse me. I think that's definitely a thing that's probably happened the last few years, but I think he's realizing that approach, while it might be good to keep guys around throughout the season, it's not going to win you games when you can't be who you are. And Nick Saban's mode of operation is intensity, and that's been missing. So if it's back, I'm feeling really good about this 2023 season.
Think about this for a second, Aiden X. He the first year of the portal, and I don't know this, but let's say he changed a little bit out of concern. How many guys still left at the end of the season? 20, right? 19, 20 guys. Whew. Okay. How big of an impact you think that had on last year? It had to, you know what I mean? Like your first year in the portal at Alabama, you lose an entire class almost. Then you come back the next year and you try to adjust even more. And what happens? Boom. Those guys go. You still lose quite a few this past offseason. So now you're sitting there going, I took a softer, kinder, gentler approach, and I still lost guys. So I think I'm going to circle back. why would that work? Why would a being who you are work? Why do you think that there's more likely to be fewer guys, and there may still be as many, but why would a more intense Nick Saban potentially help this team be better, X?
Because I think it helps you focus on the guys that are going to be here, that want to be here, that aren't going to run from the challenge. And so if you're pushing those guys with everything that you got, the guys that are going to leave are going to leave regardless. So focus that intensity and that push that you have, that drive that you have on the guys that you know are going to be around.
Yeah. Aiden, any thoughts on you? Then I'll give you my thoughts on that, and then I'll circle back.
I'm kind of with X on this one. You know, if you push guys all throughout the spring, you know, my high school lacrosse coach used to do this with the winter conditioning. He would push guys tenfold harder during winter conditioning than he was ever going to push them in practice during the season, just to get the ones who weren't fully bought in to go ahead and drop. And you can kind of do that with the transfer portal rule these days. So I kind of like it, you know, bring the intensity back and get those that aren't, get the iron that isn't here to sharpen other iron out of the program.
Hey, can you ever raise the bar by lowering it?
Never.
Right? I mean, that sounds crazy, right? Of course you can't. You can't, you know, this whole, hey, let's come down to the lowest common denominator versus raising to the highest level of competition. And I think an intense Nick Saban does some of what Aiden just said in terms of what the lacrosse did. It gets rid of some of those who are questionable. But I'll say, to X's point, guys, most of the time those guys gonna leave anyway, right? But what you end up forsaking if you're not pushing and being who you are, two things. Number one, do you think Nick Saban has changed the way he recruits?
No.
Right? You think he so if he's still recruiting the same type of players he's always recruited, what are some of the things we've heard from players who came to Alabama? What have they said? I came here because of that intensity, and I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to be pushed to be the best, right? Said Nick Saban told me, I'll give you a chance to play, but I can't guarantee you that because because I told other guys I was going to give them a chance to play. All the other coaches came in and told Jonathan Allen, hey, you're going to come in and start. And then Jonathan Allen said, but they've told every kid that. So that can't be a true statement because some of us are going to have to come off the bench. And that honesty and that intensity and that truthfulness then followed up by intensity and coaching and honesty worked out. If you're going to recruit that type of player, you have to coach them that way. But what happened, you had a bunch of guys on there, and, you know, you're going to have some that have gotten used to that, like one of our offensive linemen who had played a lot of football when Nick Saban got a no compromise, no, we're not going to pay for your girlfriend or fiance's college. What did he do? He jumped ship. But if he had been being strong the whole time, maybe he doesn't jump ship because he would not have even expected that to be a reality. He wouldn't have expected that compromise, right? So that's part of it. The other part is, how much potential do you leave on the table when you don't push your best players to be your best?
You leave a lot on the table.
Yeah.
And if you're leaving, you're going to have your Bryce Youngs, you're going to have your Will Andersons that are going to be at that level regardless. But what does that do for a Jermaine Burton You know, what does that do for a Dallas Turner? You know, guys like that you see the potential, you know it's there, but they're not being pushed to reach that potential in the same way than a guy that just naturally has it built into him.
Yep. And we all say, and I think Curtis Lewis says this the most, is the players take on the personality of their coach. That's their head coach, and that's their position coach. But the position coaches may not take on the personality of the head coach, and then it becomes confusion for the players. Is if it's not filtering all the way down through the organization, you have a schizophrenic organization. And would you describe last year's football team as schizophrenic? You know, it's just schizophrenic. We go ahead.
No, yes, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, and so you know, and so that's part of the intensity. Julene Lee said, "No more sugarcoating." That's huge. I think Alabama football will benefit from an old school Nick Saban. And here's what I love, guys. What it means to me is we're gonna see. I in the last couple of years, when you watched Alabama, you felt like one thing. If we didn't win, the one thing you wasn't going to walk away with was, oh my goodness, what was that? You know.
You knew that there was going to be. You knew that there's going to be a level of intensity and a fight within the team that you didn't see last year or the year before, even at times, even though we made it to the national championship game.
Yeah. And listen, like I said, you do have to know how to manage your team. But what people don't understand is being hard doesn't mean not being caring, not being considerate. You can be hard and still take care of the players who may not be used to that style. Sometimes being hard is raising your voice. Sometimes being hard means pulling the guy off to the side and getting in his stuff one-on-one and building him up, but letting him know, hey, listen, you can do this, but if you don't, or sometimes you just have to go, Luke, dude, this is your last time. If I have to tell you this one more time, it's over for you. But both of them are the same message. So Curtis Lewis says Saban doesn't do anything unless he sees it work already, like his old ways still being valid in today's football over in Georgia. Look for he's back to mean Bama's back. We'll talk more about Bama online recruiting. That conversation is up next right here on your home for Alabama Sports Talk 100.9 and the Martin Houston Show, powered by MaX Sports.
This is a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update.
I'm Kim Rankin with your Tide Sports Update. The Las Vegas Aces selected Brittany Davis with the number 36 overall pick in the 2023 WNBA Draft. Alabama softball ace Montana Fouts won Pitcher of the Week.
This has been a Town Square Media Tide 100.9 Sports Update. Let it again! For more info on these stories and more, download the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 Traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we got a wreck, 2059 westbound and exit 79. That's University Boulevard, with traffic backing up on the interstate. If you see other conditions, please give me a call. Townsend Nissan is paying top dollar for your current car, truck, or SUV because values are at an all-time high. The Save-a-thon is underway and BJ's making deals. Go see him. I'm Captain Ray.
You shouldn't have to exhaust yourself looking for the news that matters most in West Alabama. Let the Tuscaloosa Thread bring all the news that matters directly to you. Visit TuscaloosaThread.com to download our free mobile app and get breaking news alerts sent straight to your phone as they develop, and sign up for our twice daily newsletter, bringing the top stories of the day straight to your inbox every Tuesday and end your day the right way.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means Wait. Hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match. Only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
Tide Power Pods have 85% more Tide.
Who needs that much more Tide?
Well, when giving your muddy dog a bath turns into you getting a mud shower. Yikes, you're gonna need more Tide. When your wine tasting becomes a wine spilling. Yeah, you're gonna need more Tide. Or if your favorite shirt is your kid's favorite napkin. Great, I'm gonna need more Tide. My mom gave me that shirt.
It's a mess out there. Tide Power Pods have 85% more Tide versus Tide Pods.
Where will you be on game day? Be a part of the action with a premium reserve tailgate from Game Day Done Right. Get your group together, pick your game and tailgate package, add on catering, beverages, and other tailgating amenities, and let Game Day Done Right take it from there. Enjoy all of the fun game day with zero stress. Visit GameDayDoneRight.com to reserve your tailgate today. For your next tailgate, just add people. Game Day Done Right is the exclusive provider of reserve tailgating services for the University of Alabama and offers packages for all group sizes for a single game or the entire season.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaX Sports. We're getting ready to talk some recruiting, and joining us is Hank South of 247 Sports and Bama Online Recruiting. How you doing today, Hank?
Hey, good morning, Xavier. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So this past weekend, Bama had some recruits on campus here for visits. Can you talk about some of the big names that were here?
Yeah, there was a handful. I think one of the biggest ones earlier this week was Kamarion Franklin, who's a 4-star defensive lineman. Well, 5-star by 24/7 Sports is grading, but 4-star on the 24/7 Sports composite. He was on campus for spring practice. This was his, I think, 4th or 5th visit by his estimation. He's from Mississippi. Big-time defensive line recruit, 6'5", I think around 280. So big kid. And sounds like it went really well. He enjoyed his time. We caught up with him earlier this week, and he said he spent a lot of time with Freddie Roach, who he talks to often. He got to see the practice, got to see the pace of everything, and really enjoyed it. Spent time with Nick Saban, who told him he's a priority for them. So he was a big name on campus. Another big recruit on Monday was KJ Lacey, who's the quarterback from Saraland. Obviously, Alabama commit Ryan Williams is quarterback at Saraland, but certainly making his own name for himself on the recruiting front as well. He has offers from just about everybody, Alabama included. He was on campus, and a few other in-state kids. But it's kind of been guys just trickling in here and there. Obviously, we're leading up to A-Day next Saturday, so that'll be the big recruiting event. But in the span of the last few weeks, we've seen guys like KJ Bolden, Edric Houston, DeMarcus Riddick, all these guys take visits to Alabama, and so certainly getting guys in on campus, when they can. That'll continue over the next few weeks to A-Day, and then obviously summer will be a big visitors period as well.
Awesome. So with some of those names, you said Kamarion Franklin, defensive lineman, is a big push. Along that defensive line, who else is probably a bigger push as well?
Yeah, I think one name that's really interesting right now, and he was another guy that visited recently, is Jeremiah Beeman from Parker High School in Birmingham. He's been a guy that obviously Bama fans have known about for a while. Bama offered him at camp last summer. He's obviously been on campus a handful of times, but he was back on campus recently, and it looks like Bama's going to make or is making a big push for him. I think he put out his top 10 this week, I want to say. So, last time we caught up with him, he was very adamant about, wanting to take his time and do official visits and not rush anything and enjoy the recruiting process. But, I think it's safe to say Bama is in a very high spot for him at this point in time. I know Clemson's recruiting him hard. Auburn is as well. All these schools are. So, he's got little ways to go, but I think Jeremiah Beeman is certainly one to watch. We just mentioned Dedrick Houston, the 5-star defensive lineman from Buford. That could end up being an Alabama-Georgia battle for him. Obviously, we've seen Bama win a lot of recruitments at Buford High School in Georgia recently. Justice Haynes, Isaiah Bond. So certainly some history there in recruiting big-name guys. Dominique McKinley, a borderline 5-star defensive lineman from Louisiana. That's going to end up probably being Alabama versus LSU, if I had to guess, for him at this point in time. And then Dalen Evans, who's committed to Texas A&M from Texas. He's from Longview. So, we've seen Bama recruit that area as well with, Jalen Hale, Jordan Renaud, those guys. So bunch of options. I think the board will become obviously more clear as to who they're really pressing for come camp. And obviously the spring eval period coming up as well.
So speaking about Dedrick Houston and KJ Bolden, both Buford guys, and as you said, we've got Justice Haynes in the last year. You got Jake Pope and Isaiah Bonds the year before. Is Buford becoming a pipeline for Alabama? And also, do you think Houston and Bolden could potentially be a package deal like we've seen this past year with James Smith and Quay Russaw?
It does. The pipeline evidence is there. I don't think anybody, would say, oh yeah, that's where you go if you go to Buford. But you add in the guys you just mentioned and Seth McLaughlin a few years back. Guys certainly take notice of the Alabama push there. And then, not just the guys that are in 2024, there's obviously Buford's a loaded program. They've got guys beyond that. There's a top 100 cornerback in 2025 and Devin Williams. They have an upcoming running back. I can't think of his name right now that I believe has a Bama offer as well. That's looking at Bama. I think he's in 25 or 26. So it certainly, as they keep adding guys from that program that are in these recent recruiting cycles, that recent recency or whatever, certainly I think is big when these kids are looking at school. So you could call it a pipeline, I guess, so far. That's kind of what it's been the last few cycles. But in terms of Houston and Bolden being a package deal, I don't think they are as much as Smith and Russaw were. I think Smith and Russaw's relationship was a lot closer than, typical recruit. Kids will say package deal and then, they end up not being. But I think Russaw and Smith are, they're kind of like brothers almost. So I think that was a little bit closer of a deal. And obviously we saw that pan out with them actually both signing with Bama. But so I don't think they're a package deal, but they are being recruited by a lot of the same schools. So, I don't think it'd be a shock to see them end up together at, whether it be Georgia, Bama, or, somewhere else.
And this is Martin, Hank, South 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting. And Hank, one of the interesting things to me, talking about a pipeline, what helps to create a pipeline is guys getting a chance to play. Guys coming here is good, but the fact that McLaughlin was able, when he got his chance to break in, and Saban didn't automatically go back to the starter. Isaiah Bond, as the season went along last year, got more playing time. I promise you, if Justin Haynes breaks into the play, they're all going, guys, if you come here, if you're good enough, he's going to play you. And just having been recruited and knowing how that all plays out, we can all say what we want, but we all want to play as soon as we step on campus. And knowing that you're going to get that legit opportunity also goes a long way in recruiting. But I just wanted to comment on that. That pipeline is a budding pipeline. And I think the way these guys have performed at Alabama is only going to make that connection stronger.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so speaking as well, looking at the 2024 class, but also sneak peeking into 2025, you brought up KJ Lacey, quarterback out of Maryland, with his wide receiver, of course, being Ryan Williams, who might be a top 5 player in that class at the end of the day. How big of a target is KJ for Alabama, and is it more of a hey, this is Ryan's quarterback, or is KJ actually proving himself as being a legit, top quarterback in that class?
No, yeah, I think I think it's easy to say, oh, they want to throw him an offer too, but I think he's a legit. I mean, like certainly the interest from all these schools is on his own merit. You look at his numbers, you look at what he's done. He's obviously playing it at one of the highest classifications. They're dominating. He's done his thing, so he's certainly getting recognition in that sense. But I think the Bama interest is real. I'm curious. Obviously he's 2025, so especially with a new offensive coordinator, you got a new quarterback coach and Tommy Rees. I would imagine Bama wants to see him throw at camp in a couple months, which they probably would want to for anyone. Just a live workout. They obviously know what he brings to the table, but I think that will solidify, how hard they're pushing for him. And I think you could probably say that about any 2025 quarterback at this point in time. If they haven't thrown yet for the staff, that think, that they want to see that, especially, when you got a new coaching, when you got a new offensive coordinator, and you want to, obviously take his opinions into it too. But I think the interest is definitely real. I'm not sure there's any 2025 quarterback they'd probably take yet at this point, unless they saw him live. So it's not a knock or anything on him for needing to work out. But no, the interest seems to be very real. I don't think it's just because he's Ryan Williams' quarterback. I think one service has him as a top 60 player in the country. So 24/7 Sports doesn't have him ranked yet. I think that's going to change whenever the new 2025 rankings come out. But certainly a very talented kid. I know, Florida State's recruiting him hard. I think Tennessee's recruiting him hard. So definitely, building his own recruiting profile of his own.
Awesome. Hank, switching over to basketball real quick. You have Aaron Estrada, who has come out with a top 4 list, and Alabama is among that. We thought we were going to get a visit last week out of Kaleo Ware from Oregon. That ends up not happening. He commits elsewhere. What is Alabama's chances with bringing in Aaron Estrada? And also, could there potentially be going back into the high school ranks with the amount of departures Alabama has on the basketball team?
Yeah, it sounds like Aaron Estrada is going to visit next week. I don't think the date's set yet, but I think that was kind of the thought, that he narrowed his list to Alabama, Cincinnati, Florida State, and Kansas State, and was going to take a visit next week. I think he tweeted yesterday that he's going to announce a decision on April 29th. So he's got a couple more weeks to go before announcing a choice. But Bama being in the top 4, that's obviously that's good. If they get him in on a visit, they're able to show him everything and kind of and pitch what they've been able to do in the recent years. But he's one to watch. But it's coming up on kind of a big visitor stretch. You mentioned who else are they going to go? I think high school level maybe. I know that Duke 5-star recently backed out of his letter of intent. His name is completely escaping me right now, but that Bama's been mentioned as a school, out of like a dozen schools that would be a good fit for him. So, I'm just kind of speculating there. But in terms of the transfer portal, there's some big visits coming up. Latrell Wrightsell, who's the Cal State Fullerton guard, he's supposed to officially visit Bama early next week. So he's one to watch. This Friday or tomorrow, BJ MaX, the Wofford forward transfer, is expected on campus. So he's one to watch as well. And then yesterday, Joe Tipton on On3 reported that Tyler Perry, who is the reigning Conference USA Player of the Year transfer from North Texas, they just won the NIT, he's expected to visit next week as well. So they've got some pretty big name transfer guys lined up to come in and take a visit. So this will be a pretty pivotal time, I think, in terms of, filling out this roster. And obviously, there's still a lot of moving pieces. These guys are in the draft, but, still have their eligibility. The only sure guys that are gone, I guess, are, Miller and Clowney. So, there's guys that come back. There's, it's not really clear how many spots Bama's going to need to truly fill, which I'm sure makes it pretty difficult in terms of recruiting the portal. But, so they've got plenty of options. So there'll be a big few days on the basketball front with these visits coming up.
That's Hank, South 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting. Hank, have you heard whether or not they're trying to recruit Bradley back, or have you heard any on like his possible landing places?
No, sorry. No, I haven't heard on, whether that's another thing with this whole with the transfer portal. Bama's also filling out his coaching staff. They lost all their assistants, so that adds another little factor to this all. But I have not heard if they're still recruiting Jaden Bradley to come back. Obviously, we've seen that happen before. Kyra Lewis entered the portal when Nate Oates was hired, and then ended up coming back, and that ended up being a pretty good move for him, obviously. So not clear if they were doing that with Jaden Bradley, but I think they're just looking at the best options available for them. Obviously, if guys want to go, they're going to go. You kind of have to move forward. So we'll see on Bradley, but I haven't heard if they've looked at trying to get him back yet.
Have you heard what made him decommit, and is Alabama still recruiting him? RJ, I think.
RJ Johnson, he had, I think it wasn't a fan. I know, I'm not going to talk about I don't know. He had some stuff go on off the court this year, but I'm not really sure the details. I don't want to just blast him or anything, right. But I know that was probably a factor, and so I think that played into it, and also I think they just thought best to move on, and I think it's more probably mutual parting of ways, I guess. So yeah, that's really all I could probably say on it. It's in terms of why he backed off, but I don't think they're still recruiting him.
Yeah, and I agree. I think him having legal issues, Alabama definitely don't want to follow this season up with that, regard innocent or not.
Ask, is that potentially a thing that also has to deal with the Brandon Miller situation?
Absolutely.
Play into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what he had said. That's a little bit. Hank, tell our listeners where they can find you, and if you have any, any like juicy tidbit that we didn't get to that you want to share with us real quick.
Not really. I think that's going to come more with A-Day getting closer. Hopefully we'll see some commitments or something. It's been kind of quiet recruiting wise in terms of that, but BamaOnline.com. Twitter handle is @HankSouth247. So obviously we got A-Day coming up, we got the draft coming up, so plenty of stuff to track here in the next few weeks to come.
All right, thanks. That's Hank South 247 Sports @Hank South 247 Sports. Best follow in recruiting, whether it's football or basketball. BamaOnline.com. Thanks, Hank. We appreciate you. As we wrap up this show, we're going to go straight through to the break. We're talking a little bit about Saban being back. Curtis Lewis asking the question, will Kevin Steele, our new defense coordinator, provide a all caps noticeable change in performance to our defensive line play this year? So what are your thoughts on that question?
Specifically the defensive line. Yeah, I mean, I think you can. I think Kevin Steele is going to bring back the old mentality that Alabama had, and so I think there's going to be a noticeable change across the entire defense. And doing that is going to help the defensive line as well. I think having Justin Boyd be back, I think having Jaheim Otis with a year experience, another year, getting his body into the conditioning and shape that they want it to be. You add guys in like James Smith. I think this defensive line has an opportunity to improve, along with other guys that are coming back and have more experience as well.
Yeah, you may not think.
And Curtis, EJ Fluffy is gone, so you ain't got to worry about him no more.
I know a Borgby may be one of those guys you may say, well, is he a dominant defensive lineman? Not necessarily, but he's good and he's a contributor. We'll talk more about it on tomorrow, but think about how we played down the stretch. Was Borgby's absence? Is that what led to Will having to play?
It should be the third D.
Yes,
be the third D
and how that changed our defense potentially. We haven't talked much about Tim Smith being back. That's some veterans there that should be added to the mix. So we can talk more about that question on tomorrow if you like. We can talk about what you're talking about. We got to have a free-for-all Friday. We may work in some more of Saban's audio, and we'll continue to push forward. But you come back on tomorrow, and we'll have some more great conversation right here on the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by MaX Sports. X, appreciate you being a part of the conversation this morning. Appreciate you leading that recruiting with Hank South 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting. And we appreciate all our callers, listeners, viewers, and chatters for being a part of the program. Remember this: like, follow, share, and support the live stream. We appreciate that each and every opportunity that you provide us by supporting us. We appreciate it, and thank you. Remember this: trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide out to everybody, and have a blessed, prosperous, and successful day.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.